Okay. Hello. Hopefully you're hearing me. You're going to be hearing a lot of noises in the next. I don't know how long I'm going to do this for, but you're going to hear a lot of noise. I've got a squeaky chair. I might occasionally hit my desk, so you'll hear the odd kind of rumble of my own stupidity. And there's kids playing outside, and the helicopter was just flying over. So it's all action here. I'm not going to try to kind of do a voice and like, hello, welcome to my channel. Somebody asked me to do a video about drawing, so I thought, well, I've wanted an excuse to set up my old PC, my old decrepit 14-year-old PC, and I've done that. So I've set up my Blue Yeti microphone. I've got my Samsung tablet connected via Samsung Flow, and I'm capturing it via my ancient Elgato game capture device. It's a miracle anything's working. It's a miracle if this works at all. Is that working? Yeah, that's working. Slightly lagged, but let's see how we do. Here comes that helicopter again. There must be convicts on the run around here or something. Somebody's stolen a car again. Right, so what I thought I'd do today is I'm just going to draw a face. I'm not an artist. I'm not a trained artist. I don't pretend to be an artist. I don't even think I can draw. I just do what kind of interests me, what I find interesting in others, and accordingly, I don't quite know what I'm going to do now. I mean, the way you normally traditionally, I know, taught to draw faces is you do kind of some kind of circle and you put these lines in. Kind of use them to establish like where the eyes are going to be in the nose, and then you stick the ears in the forehead, and the chin, the neck, and then you get into blah blah blah, and then you do the hair. That's not how I don't really like doing that. I don't really think it ever works that well. When I try to make my characters look too lifelike, it just highlights how bad I am at drawing. So what I tend to do, I usually begin with the nose and the nose and the eyes and see if I can establish a relationship between them. And I am obviously using a digital tablet, so that means I can erase things quite quickly as I let me just set my eraser to slightly bigger. So yeah, I do a lot of erasing, a lot of playing around with forms, playing around with ideas. I'm thinking, normally that would be the way to write that, so what I'll do is I'll try to do it a different way. So there, the eyes come in here. Again, I try to surprise myself all the time. So, for example, I've just drawn an eye thinking I was going to draw the eyeball there, but let's stick the eyeball on top of it instead. That sometimes works. Still need a bigger eraser. Let me just... actually, I think that's just the wrong eraser. There we go. Right. So yeah, so I kind of mess around with things, try to surprise myself. Again, I don't quite know what I'm doing, but I don't mind not knowing what I'm doing, because if you surprise yourself, you're not really falling into familiar habits, and I don't really like falling into familiar habits. I'm using a Samsung tablet with a cheap case, and the problem with the cheap case is it sometimes interferes with the screen. So if I close my case and I've got the magnet at the top, you can see the lines don't actually draw. Whereas if I open the case, I get much thicker lines. So you just have to bear with me as I'm getting used to this. Yeah, as I was saying, try to surprise myself all the time, because I'm not a trained artist. I don't have an ideology, a theory about what I'm doing, beyond the fact that I like to surprise myself in how I make up a face. So sometimes I'll just stick lines in. I don't quite know where they're going to go. I like to sometimes resize things. Let me think. Forehead. Let's make it a flat forehead. Stick an ear there, maybe a bit of hair there, maybe an ear there. I mean, like I say, surprise myself all the time. It's quite possible this isn't going to work out, but then again it might. I was actually going to do one of these things on actually drawing a full cartoon strip, but given this is my first effort at streaming live to YouTube, or it will be live. It's live to me, but it won't be live if I do ever publish it. I thought it probably better not to do it the first time, because a cartoon strip can take me a good few hours to draw. I don't think anybody wants to be in my company for a good few hours. Like I say, I don't have a script either, so I'm just sort of talking off the top of my head. I sometimes like drawing cheekbones. Cheekbones can kind of give me a shape. I'm not sure about that ear now. I'm wondering whether to create a cheekbone on that side. There, like that. I'm a firm believer in just doing whatever the hell you want. One of my problems in life, I think it's probably a thing a lot of people have the same kind of anxieties. Yeah, I'm going to draw his teeth a bit weird like that. You're always looking for somebody to validate what you do, as in give you permission to be what you want or who you want to be, especially when it comes to the arts, because you feel like what you do might not be all that meaningful. You might enjoy it, but unless somebody's paying you for it, it doesn't feel real. And I have that kind of, I suppose it's imposter syndrome. I have imposter syndrome kind of out the kazoo. I don't quite know anybody with as much imposter syndrome as I have. And I suppose that's why, I don't like that line. I suppose that's why I fret so much. And why I don't really like doing what I don't really like following the rules. The rules are usually there to sort of impose somebody else's ideas on you, especially when it comes to art. I do a lot of photography, as you probably know, and the rules in photography are kind of restrictive all the time. Yet, when you actually read up on the truly great photographers, the likes of William Klein, they still don't look like that. So I'm going to have to work out that side of the face. I might do something radical there. When you look at somebody like William Klein just did whatever the hell he wanted. You know, fixed things in at the developing stage. You know, cropped to his heart's content. Yeah, there's a lot of photographers who kind of get paranoid about like whether they're doing things right. It doesn't really matter, as long as you like the finished result. That's all that matters. If you don't like the finished result, so what? You don't show anybody. You don't put it out into the world. Failure is actually part of the process. I've not met many famous people, and I suppose the thing I always come back to is I once met Ralph Steadman, and I suppose he says this to everybody who's a new or aspiring illustrator, is just throw some ink on the page and see what happens. Experiment, play around, see where your imagination takes you, because that's the only way you do anything interesting. If you just follow the rules of what is already established, you probably bore yourself eventually. I know I would bore myself. I'm no doubt boring you now, but yeah. I mean, this is a perfect example. I mean, I'm actually quite liking this now. I quite like is looking for areas of white space. So, for example, here. Sorry, I shouldn't be drawing it like it, but yeah, this kind of area here. I could leave it open, or I could kind of try to fill it in with some kind of structural shapes, but I wouldn't know. Like something like that interests me. Folds of skin, tendons. As you can see, what I do is as I constantly refine what I do. Some of it, is becoming a little more obvious and planned. So I know I'm gonna try to invert the bags under his eyes and make them over his eyes. I'm gonna leave that like a kind of inverted eyelid. You see, already at this stage, I'm actually seeing things I kind of quite like. Let me see if I can get my layers on. So what I'll do is I'll go on to a second layer now. Change my pen over to my thin cross-hatching pen, and I just begin to shade in some of these places where I imagine are going to be quite dark. I like contrasts. I like high contrast in everything. I think it's probably says something deep about my psychology or something, but I love dark contrast. I love highly contrasting photographs, black and white, and I like it in my illustrations. I love adding shading, even to the point of it becoming slightly obsessive, I suppose. I suppose it plays into my Asperger's as like I love repetitive patterns. I love repetitive music. But yeah, I love kind of this kind of stuff. Just adding in the dark picture parts of the picture. I might completely delete all this again later on and redo it. But I kind of love that sense of darkness there. Maybe I'll add some more folds. I don't know how low I can go with that. Let's give him. I like sometimes making the bags change the outer contours. Sometimes outer contours can feel a little bit flat. If you just do a line like that, it can feel flat. So it's nice to find a reason to break it. For example, just stick in a mole or perhaps some hairs. I know. This illustration is illustrative of nothing other than my enjoyment of fooling around with shapes, and actually just sometimes it's not much more than a doodle. But I think it's a good way just to get your brain active, especially on a day like today. I've been writing all morning. I write a column for Reaction, and each week, and usually it's about either culture or American politics, which I'm pretty keen on. So I've been thinking about Donald Trump and Musk all morning, so I probably need a little bit of this to get my brain out of that. It's constantly about just. I mean, I suppose this isn't anything particularly radical. You're just constantly trying to find the places where the line, you like the lines, as opposed to the places where you don't like the lines. You see, here's an example. Do I like that line, or do I like this line? In fact, I think what we could do is we can add a few more. See how that. I'm not liking that. I think I'll just do my own. Something different. Let me think. Yeah, I'm going to give him a smaller nose. Slightly more button nose, I think. He feels to me to be a kind of a small man. So we'll give him 2 of those. One of the things that used to obsess me about when I was drawing, because I was really influenced by Robert Crumb. I don't really like his hugely sexually explicit stuff. I'm not offended by it or anything, but I think he's slightly more interesting when he's like dealing with slightly more universal things than his obsession with big women and their thighs. But I often wondered where you were meant to put your when you were doing the shading, where do you put it? As though there was like a hard and fast rule. And there aren't hard and fast rules, obviously. You can pretty much shade anything or anywhere you like, so long as you kind of imply there's a kind of consistency to it. No, I don't like that. I'll do it, maybe. Let's give him a bit of a. I mean, there are, the more you draw, the more you fall into kind of shorthands for things. There's ways to draw chins you kind of get used to, and you kind of repeat. But yeah, when it comes to like where you stick your shading, it doesn't really matter. I'll show you how I do it, but I can't say that I've done it according to some hard and fast rule. I'm going to have a drink of coffee. I'm drinking law coffee today. Is that how you pronounce it? L''OR. I don't know French, but it's chocolate flavoured, which isn't my favourite. But I'm running out of my my main stuff, which is well, what is it? I can't remember. Could be law. One of the laws. I usually buy the big boxes of them for about 40 quid, and they last me about 3 months. But lately they've been lasting me much shorter when I can't afford them again. I'm still paying the price having bought a new camera, which I shouldn't have done, but it was driving me crazy not being able to do photography. I sold my cameras last year because there was a bit of a financial woes because of my mum dying and my sister having medical issues, so I kind of desperately sold my camera and then used a bit of the money I'd left over to fund my movie addiction, because my projector had it was very old and I needed something in my life. But yeah, so I've been working on some photography books, and yeah, because I replaced my camera, I'm still kind of suffering from that, so that'll last for me another couple of months while I pay the bloody thing off. So my coffee addiction is harder to maintain at the moment, and also my this computer desperately needs fixing. It's I've not been using my computer for a year or so. When my mum was ill, I kind of had to move my life to sort of live around her and carers and everything, and I stopped working from a desktop computer, started to work from laptops, and I can't say I found it particularly pleasurable. Recently I've just been really growing very dissatisfied, not just I don't like the physical act of sitting in an armchair while I'm working. I think it encourages laziness. So I'm now sat back in my room. You see, this is the kind of thing I quite like doing. Kind of darkened recesses where skin folds, or you have different kinds of levels of. In fact, I'm going to put a little bit of shading in now. Here we go. Let's try this. Yeah, so when it comes to shading, my tendency is I go one way, then at right angles, then at another angle, but I don't go out to the extremes of the first two areas. So I could do with like I might do an illustrative layer angle. Let me see if I can put this might work. So if you can see kind of there, I don't really I don't want the third set of lines to extend into that region. So now I need to do right angles to the second set of lines, and then let's turn that off. And then if I want to go really dark, I'll often put it on a separate layer, and I kind of just fill it in quite close like that. And sometimes I just scribble to kind of create a really darkened area. So you can kind of get a graduated sense of it. And because this is an eye, I'm going to put a few lines there just to imply a kind of reflection. Reflections and shading are kind of two sides of the same coin, two buttocks on the same arse, if you want. The same way that you kind of imply darkness through shading. That's not the right pen. I've reset my tablet and I seem to be drawing with a slightly different pen. Yeah, I seem to have picked a pen which has got a kind of texture to it which I don't really like. Yeah, this is better. I need to reset my pens on this, really. Let's try it again. Yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah, two buttocks, two cheeks on the same arse, two buttocks on the same. Anyway, yeah, in the same way that shading can kind of imply darkness and light, the way you add reflection is just similar. You can just hint at a kind of shiny surface just by placing a few subtle lines in an area of white. So, for example, let's add a bit here. Across that surface there, you just get a kind of sense of a reflection. You know, rather than here, which is where you would kind of imply this shade. Again, just following my rough and ready techniques. Yeah, so you kind of getting a sense of just as you kind of, this area here now looks like it's in darkness, you can kind of imply there's going to be kind of a reflection across there. I'll probably do it, you know, down the nose, on top of the nose, kind of probably around this area. I mean, I could even do it around there, obviously across the forehead there, but I mean, this is where I'd be kind of wanting to like look up a book and find some. I want the science, I want the technique, I want to know like this is how you do it, but in truth you just do it where your gut tells you whether you like it or not. So I always put a little bit of shading under the nose. boring you yet? I think I probably am. There we go. When I was actually thinking about doing this, doing some of these things, I thought to myself, what am I going to talk about? I can't just talk about drawing. So I thought I'm just going to talk randomly about everything at the moment that kind of passes through my brain. Like I say, I've been writing about Musk this morning and Donald Trump, the interview. It was, I mean, they phrased it, they called it a conversation, which was kind of ironic given that like neither of them have any particular skills at the art of conversation. Musk is clearly on the spectrum, and I can say that as somebody also on the spectrum, but he clearly doesn't function well around other human beings. But it was such a strange thing to witness. I've not listened to a great deal of it. I've listened to snippets. I couldn't subject myself to it, to be honest. Okay, quick. Before I get there, here's an example. I have a slightly filthy mind. So sometimes I like to incorporate into my drawings other body parts, to put it mildly. So I kind of quite like the look of this bit here, which I don't quite know what it is, but that makes me smile in a kind of, yeah, quite like that. I'm quite liking how it's turning out. I didn't actually have any of this planned. This is just me ad-libbing. I really have to sort these pens out. I don't know, actually I used to have a load of pens set up on this tablet, and something's happened where it's reset them. I don't know if there's been an update or something. I don't like blaming updates for problems, but clearly down to user error. But I did used to have my pens used to be a little bit more. I don't have a great. I'm not exactly one of these people who've got a pen for different occasions, but I did have a couple set up which just made life a lot easier. Ears are another thing, you know. How do you draw an ear? There are all the YouTube videos on how to draw an ear, but what I do is I just well, that's actually I was going to say I just do that shape, and then I just sort of I do that kind of shape and kind of stick that in, but that's not always true. What I also do is I also like to use layers, especially when I'm doing something like this. So what I can do is I sometimes like to do that shape where you go over the outline you've already done, and then I use a bit of white to fill that in, so you get that kind of ear which kind of goes inside out. And then you can kind of add any kind of weird inner detail that takes your fancy. I'm going to have to get a better case for this tablet, but cases for tablets have gone ridiculous in price. This is I should mention I'm using a Samsung tablet. This is a Samsung Ultra. I've had a series of drawing tablets. Used to be a big fan of Microsoft Surface, but I had a few. They never lasted me more than a year. There was a problem with the batteries on them. And I originally started out on a Samsung Note 2014 edition. I remember it called that because that was its name, but not that I don't remember years very well. It's not like I keep years in my head, but that one was actually called the 2014 edition, and it was my favourite, but it was pretty limited on how big the canvas sizes could be, because I love using extremely large canvases, especially when you get in this kind of, I obviously like cross hatching and stuff, so I really like sometimes using very, very small pens, especially when I get into drawing little whiskers. You know, I like. I mean, I was doing them there, but I like. Maybe that's too. I like kind of little, just like little wisps of things and hints of things. You do need a pretty large. You do need a pretty large canvas to do that. So this canvas, as you can see from, I don't know if you can see it, but it's top up there. Is 7,000 by 7,000, which is ridiculously large, given the fact that most of the time when I finish these, I just realise you're going to get updates from YouTube. Yeah, I'm a Liverpool fan. Sometimes, kind of gone off football quite a bit in the last few years. It was something we used to watch as a family, and kind of now I just can't justify paying for it, so I'm kind of a bit of a casual fan. Kind of, if we're winning, I'm into it, and if we're losing, I take no interest. I like his tooth though. I like this weird. Oh my god, this is a problem when you do start to use too many layers. You sometimes a drawing over it underneath what you've already done. I quite like that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I am rambling. And yeah, I have completely forgotten what I was talking about. But if you enjoy this kind of content, tell me and I'll carry on. Otherwise, I just feel like talking to myself. Which, of course, I am. Yeah, I started out on a Samsung tablet years ago, moved to the Microsoft Surfaces, which I loved. I adored Microsoft Surface. I never thought I'd not be a Microsoft fanboy. And then I had the first one, and then I bought the third one, and the third one had a battery problem. So I bought the seventh one. I might have even had the sixth one. But I do know I had two where neither one of them lasted more than a year, and Microsoft didn't acknowledge the problem. I think they eventually repaired the second one, but it came back in a kind of, it wasn't that good when it came back. In fact, it came back throwing errors as soon as I switched it on, so I had to send it back, and I didn't have a computer for about 3 months. And given the money I'd spent on them, and the fact that this was the second one which developed faults within a 18-month period, I moved to Dell laptops, which I like. It was a 360, which means you could flip it back and you could draw on it. And as a drawing experience, I absolutely adored it. It was wonderful, but the constant flipping it open and shut wasn't great on the hinge. The hinges weren't designed to work as well as they could. So I decided to move back to tablets when I realised. Actually, I was in a shop and I saw the Samsung had brought out the Ultras, which are ridiculously large and ridiculously overpriced. I mean, talking Apple iPod Pro kind of territory. But I am serious about my drawing, as I am serious about my writing. And I figured I wanted just to use one system, and I didn't want any more mechanical problems, so I bought it. And I have not regretted it for a moment. I adore these tablets. I think they're fantastic. Yeah, so anyway, here we go. That's an example. I do sometimes like putting parts of the body floating outlandishly separate to the main part of the body, but here, obviously, that was just a placeholder, so I'm now going to draw in the eyelashes. How I like them. Again, no particular logic to this. Don't quite touching. So, and even this is only a placeholder. It'll be a placeholder for when I come back and draw them in more detail if I do that at a later point. One of the things I learned studying literature, here I'm going to get pretentious, is there is no such thing as a finished text. There is no finished thing as a you know, there are various editions of you know, James Joyce or Jack Kerouac. You know, there's no such thing as a finished piece of work. There's various forms, there's various editions of it, there's variants, there's whatever. But if James Joyce were alive today, he would probably go back and revise Ulysses or Finnegan's Wake or The Dubliners, you know, to fix things that he later regretted. Wordsworth did it famously with a Prelude, where kind of the young radical Wordsworth in his older age, when he was more conservative, went back and kind of changed the text. So many people, I believe, I'm not an expert on Wordsworth, but many people believe that the early versions of the Prelude are better than the later versions of the Prelude, because the younger Wordsworth was more radical and a different man to the one who went back and did it later on. And in a way, I kind of think that about when I'm drawing. It's, you know, there's no such thing as a finished drawing. I mean, I could literally leave this as it is, and this would be my last effort. But obviously, it's not going to be. And even after I finish it today, I might come back and revisit it tomorrow. If there's something that strikes me about it that I don't like, or I like, or, you know, I might even come back and completely steal it to use in something else I'm doing. So all of it, in other words, is I've lost. Oh, there we go. Sometimes I lose the lose my eye on what bit what was what. That's part of his tie. So let's kind of draw that in there. Yeah, my YouTube notifications keep popping up, so that means you're going to discover the things I'm really interested in and I might not talk about. You're probably going to get some chess notifications, even though I don't play chess, but weirdly I'm interested in chess. Climbing, I'm actually quite interested in climbing, nature, outdoors, but I don't do any climbing, nature or outdoors. Computers, like I said, I'm going to build a new computer when I can afford it. It's a miracle this one's working, given its, I keep saying it's 15 years old, but I think it must be more like 14 years old. The chip that's in it came out in 2010, so, and I got it quite near the start of the life cycle, so yeah, it's probably 14 years old. So what I normally do at this stage is, when I can see like certain layers are, see none of these layers, those two layers are just highlights, mainly highlights, so I'll merge those two together. And these three layers can be merged together because it saves me, I mean, there's obviously little points where I've kind of not followed my scheme, but again, I don't have a scheme, I'm just doing it as I go along. But it's sometimes easy just to work from one layer, especially when you've got, sometimes another thing I do is I won't erase something, I might actually use a little bit of, pen's gone funny, I might use a little bit of white rather than erasing, which isn't a problem, but obviously when you look later on, you know, you can see like there's actually patches of white there. It's a bit like using Tipp-Ex if I was using ink. Yeah, I don't use ink. Never been able to use ink. I think ink takes a certain kind of bravery, or maybe just a skill level, or maybe I'll never get the skill level given the fact I don't use ink, but I also can't afford it. Can't afford real. It's easier to buy and justify an expensive tablet than hundreds of pounds on paper, ink. And it just suits my mind more. Constantly changing my mind, refining things. And I kind of like the finished result. I like the hard black and white. Plus, I don't have the time, really. Given life, I don't really often have a lot of time to be using pencil and rubbing out and things. So at this stage, what I would normally do, I'm kind of liking the lines. I can't think of any point there where I actually want to start adding to that. So I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to start throwing in. In fact, I've done it on the wrong level. In fact, let's start that again. I'm going to start throwing in some shadows, a little bit of maybe hinted to kind of. I should actually know what that part of the lip's called, but I've never had to search for it. But you know, that little divot at the top of your lip. Again, lips. I kind of always draw lips this way. It's emulating kind of other cartoonists I've probably looked at. Probably something I've kind of semi-stole from Crumb. Yeah, Crumb is probably one of my favourite cartoonists. Who else do I like? Obviously Stedman, Ronald Searle, well, Joel Scarf. Big fan of Joel Scarf stuff. Not his colour stuff. I mainly like his black and white stuff, but yeah, big fan of Scarf. Then obviously kind of a lot of the modern newspaper cartoonist Rowson and Peter Brooks can be good. Dave Brown, like all those. But mainly older cartoonists, I'd say. There's probably, there's going to be thousands of them. I'm not even aware of, but let me have a look at this now. Yeah, so that needs to be a little bit. Kind of thinking when the clothes kind of fold around into his neck. And I'm gonna make this really dark, so kind of just becomes a little bit of a scribble. As long as you scribble enough, the fact you're scribbling becomes less evident. As long as you then graduate out using some kind of regular pattern. From a distance, it doesn't look. It looks slightly better than it kind of sounds. So I extend the lines further out like that. It kind of starts to take on a bit of depth. Across the forehead. My first instinct is to try out some wrinkles. So let's try some, but I'll put them on a different level just in case I don't like them. Let's see how that would look. Yeah, quite like that. Gonna have to put a little bit of cross hatching into there as well, so just keep building up my layers, and when I'm satisfied with what I've got and I'm thinking I'm not going to want to adjust things, I will then merge the layers. Sometimes it bites me on the ass and I have to start working around my cross hatching or repairing my cross hatching if I've accidentally deleted it, but yeah, kind of, I don't mind that. Wrinkles can be quite tough to do actually. These are the see, this is what I'm doing here is establish the shadows behind the wrinkles, but I want to, on the leading edge, I'm trying to just kind of imply there's a bit of a reflection. I think we'll come around here with a bit of darkness around these strange inverted bags over his eyes. He's got bags over his eyes. You see that kind of, I don't know, wordplay. Just that kind of delights me a little bit. I like that bags over his eyes. I think I'm going to put a little bit of a line kind of there. Going to do his eyes again a way I often just do eyes, which is these slightly radiating lines. I'm not actually drawing the eyeball a little bit more. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in the eyeball and give it a little bit more of a proper highlight. Let's see. I never quite understood how you meant to draw highlights. I just tend to draw them the same way. I often wonder about taking art classes, but I think it'd probably take the fun out of it for me. Yeah, coming along. Kind of don't quite know where I'm going next with it. When in trouble, crosshatch. So I'll just do a bit more crosshatching while I think about this. It could be that I'm just approaching the natural end of this one. How long have I been drawing for? Does it say? I can't tell. Oh, 1 hour 2 minutes. Jesus, 1 hour 2 minutes. Wow. Okay. I think I probably am coming to the end of this drawing. Let me see if I can. Let's just add a few little. I'm just wondering if sometimes I like to. I tell you what, I will add. I'll put that there just in case I don't like it. I just like to break up that negative space there, but I need a much thicker line. Let's try it again. Yeah, quite like that. But we'll come in and fix it up a little bit. Can't remember. I think it was Searle who used to. I read or I heard an interview with him. He was talking about how he worked and how he'd do a drawing and then spend like a day fixing all the little mistakes and places where, well, for example, I mean, one, I was using the wrong pen there, so that's why this line looks a little bit rough there. But, you know, fixing little mistakes where lines don't join up and things. I always quite like, I always quite like that stage of the drawing. I actually, just the pleasure of drawing is just enjoy holding the pen in my hand, and, you know, the brain part of the exercise is finished, and it's just a matter of cleaning things up and smoothing things out. Try to establish a little better sense of like the strokes and, you know, this kind of thing I'm doing now. It's very relaxing. cross-hatching can be relaxing, except when it becomes when it's not relaxing. But yeah, except when it's like sometimes I've had to do huge expanses of cross-hatching, and you think, well, I'll just add a few lines, and then oh no, I better do 2 levels, and no, then I better do all 4 levels, and yeah, then I'll add some like darker areas, and you can turn into a epic marathon of your hands doing the same motion thousands and thousands of times. Yeah, so I generally like cross-hatching. I'm wondering whether to give this tie a little bit of I don't know about this, the topography of a tie is like how the angles change after tying the knot, but topology. Anyway, whatever it is, I don't know anything about it. I don't even know the word. Coming in, implying some sort of veins, sinews, tendons. And where they stand proud, I just like to run a series of lines across the leading edge just to kind of imply where they raised and maybe want that there. Let's have a look at this now. Should probably do that hair again. Quite like it. I quite like that. Don't know why. I mean, part of the pleasure of this is, let me change back to the red. I'm not necessarily looking for a logical drawing. For example, that area there is kind of skin blending into shirt. The collar wouldn't fit together. I mean, obviously his eyes upside down. There's that weirdness there. This is floating here. I mean, none of it makes sense, but yeah, that's what I like. I like that it makes no sense. What I don't like is the fact I've just drawn a load of red all over me. Oh, sorry. I've just drawn a load of red over my the non-red layer, but I just delete all that. Yeah, I like that. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to finish off by putting a couple of imply a little bit of hair direction. There and there. And what I'll finally do is switch to my really tiny brush, and I like to I just like the hairs to end a little bit more like hair. Ah, not bad. Not great, but you know. Not bad. I think I'll probably leave it there. If anybody watches this, feel free to email me. If you want me to do more, if there's anything you particularly want me to draw or talk about drawing, I might try drawing a cartoon strip next time. I've been drawing some cartoon strips lately, and I've been enjoying them, 4-panel cartoon strips. Don't know if anybody will find them funny, but I find them funny. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there. I quite like that. Finish my cup of coffee. Yes, email me or send me a message. I'm on Twitter, David Waywell on Twitter. And yeah, I might do some more. This wasn't as painful as I thought it might be. So, thank you for listening. And I will I'll go and spend some time in the garden now. It's a sunny day.